May 1st is a doozy. If you haven't been following me, please take a moment to subscribe to my YouTube channel. It is free. If you want extra perks, please subscribe and join to my membership also. I'm doing live streams Monday through Friday in the mornings every single week. We are on week 4 of doing this, and let me just tell you, the momentum that I felt shift last night was all because of the Kamala Harris speech that she gave at Emerge America. Now, she said some very sharply pointed things at Donald Trump and his administration. She also said, lock it in. Now, if you haven't been paying attention, we have a lot of momentum that has been moving for Democrats in recent weeks, whether it is protests, whether it is voicing your opinions to your senators, to your congresspeople, whether it is just standing up to Donald Trump. My goodness, the momentum has shifted. Now, what has not shifted is a lot of the media coverage. A lot of the mainstream media has still yet to really give the full coverage to all of the different things that have been happening with all of the live protesting. But let's get to some of the stories of the day because they're a little bit too much not to cover in this hour. So I'm going to try to be on here for about 45 minutes this morning. And if you're watching this on a replay, thank you so much. Bonjour, Vivian. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. Let me just start with the US is weeks away, not months, not years, weeks away from supply chain disruptions. If you haven't been seeing this all over the news, this is one of the major stories that has been playing out because of Donald Trump's tariffs and the trade wars that he started. Last night during Kamala's speech, thank you for giving me a thumbs up. I really appreciate the likes. What Kamala Harris had said is this is man-made market disaster. I don't think she said it in that way, but she did say the word man-made. And in that sense, all of this could have been avoided. All of these sort of trade negotiations could have been done the normal way. And instead, he decided to blanket tariffs across the world and alienate our allies. And this is the result. If you haven't been seeing on any of your social media, the ports are nearly empty. Los Angeles, Seattle, I believe New York, the trucks are not going to be moving anything into your towns very soon because there's nothing to be moved. These shipping containers, I actually saw somebody talking about this. I am not an expert, but I understand. When I see a live map and I see China with all of the ships that are either docked, sitting there, paused, delayed, or not moving in our direction, and then you see the live map of the Port of Los Angeles, the Port of Seattle, the Port of, like all of them. Even I saw a TikTok yesterday, someone who lives near or like right there in Panama by the Panama Canal, and he panned out there into the ocean and he said, those ships normally would have things on them, okay? They would be getting ready, lining themselves up to come through the canal. And then I saw another TikTok about the fact that shipping containers, they do this sort of, supply chain thing where the shipping container comes here and then we use that shipping container to send out, right? So not only is there nothing coming, right, for many, many weeks because it takes certain amount of time for things to get approved, a certain amount of time for things to actually get onto the sort of shipping containers, a certain amount of time for those to be loaded onto the ships, a certain amount of time actually to make the voyage, the journey, get through the canal, come up the other way, and then a certain amount of time for those shipping containers to get onto the trucks and actually be driven to their place, their destination, okay? So it's not just, oh, the ships aren't coming. It's like, no, the ships haven't been loaded. The ships won't be loaded, or the ships are really maintaining position over there in China or by Vietnam, all of those things. Now, if you think about what this other part is if they have all the containers, and I'm not saying they have all of them, but let's say they have the majority that are sitting there, the people who may have wanted to ship from here have less containers to ship there, right? To ship other places in the world because there's this sort of hand to mouth and mouth to hand kind of thing going on, where the containers come here, they get unloaded, they get reloaded, they go somewhere else. That reloading isn't happening because the majority of those containers aren't even here. So that is a whole other problem. Vivian says, yes, it is all over the news, as it should be. Now, a lot of people are saying, do not panic buy. Okay, there are a lot of things that are still made here in the United States. So I don't want to see everybody going out there and stealing all the toilet paper off the shelves. During COVID, this was an issue. I am looking at all of you who are looking at yourselves in the mirror right now, who took all the toilet paper for no reason, because we will still have supplies of some things. But it is always good to make sure you have some canned goods at home. Maybe stock up on a little bit of pasta. We were doing this during the fires because we didn't know, because our power went out for a little bit, and we actually got a little like camping stove and little sternos and like matches and things that we had never supplied our house with before the fires. And it feels a little bit like a lot of things are going to get shut down. People have been talking about May Day protests. If you are thinking about this and you want to participate, go all in, because the more vocal everybody can get, the more this will come to an end. Okay, this will start to really weigh on the presidency. Now, this is something that just came out this morning. I think, well, maybe a little bit later last night. Ukraine minerals deal is largely symbolic, but that's enough for Donald Trump. Apparently, they did sign a minerals deal, and there was a win, apparently, for Ukraine in this. It says it provides both good news and options, but is ultimately a forced deal with a complex future. Ukraine's minerals agreement with the United States stems from months of fraught haggling and originates in a Ukrainian idea first offered during the amicable climbs of the Biden administration. Okay, and it keeps going in this article. I will get out of the way so you can kind of read. The symbolism, however, largely the point Trump needed to feel America was getting something back from Kyiv. Ukraine needed to show its relationship with the White House was functional and improving, and Ukraine's allies needed this done and dusted to remove a distraction from the complex talk of a military and real peace that must now become their focus. Okay, now personally, I think that this was kind of like, we should be helping these people because we entered this sort of agreement with them when they gave up, at our request, their nuclear weapon. So for us to then ask for something in return is so businesslike of Donald Trump and so beyond. It's so beyond the pale. Like, we do not need this sort of like, hey, we were giving you extra weapons that we weren't even using, that were like the old version of some of the things that we haven't even gone back to. But hey, we need something from you. And you know what? God bless him for wanting to just appease this sort of wannabe dictator. It's pretty sad. Into the rest of this is where it gets into some of the sort of wording that they wanted. It says the deal's text also contains two phrases that will be distinctly pleasing to Kyiv. First, it refers to, quote, the large-scale destruction caused by Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, which is important. It says an unambiguous statement of blame from a White House that has often preferred to pull its punches. And then it explains how Ukraine might buy arms from the US, vital given the escalating Russian onslaught across the front lines. So this is important because they actually got in this statement: large-scale destruction caused by Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, which we already knew. We already knew this about the war. They were invaded by Russia, and a lot of people, when that meeting happened with Zelensky and the White House and Donald Trump and all the people, the minions sitting on the couch, when that attack happened, he basically was trying to say that like Ukraine started it, and Zelensky was like, no, 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 honey, this is what really happened. Randy Michael says, I love it when you do Women Talk Trump when you are reading. Do I talk a certain way when I'm reading? I don't know if I change it up, but thank you for letting me know. So that's a very interesting one. Let's also talk about this, because this is breaking. This is from Reuters this morning. I took a screenshot, and this actually says at 8:12 a.m. this morning, and right now it's 8:56 a.m. Pacific time. White House National Security Advisor Waltz to leave post, sources say. And it's not just him, apparently, it's also his sort of advisor below him. It says US President Donald Trump's National Security Advisor Mike Waltz and his deputy, Alex Wong, not to be confused with the dancer Alex Wong, will be leaving their posts, sources briefed on the matter said Thursday, in the first big shakeup of Trump's inner circle since he took office in January. And if you don't remember who Mike Waltz is, let me just say, we were privy to the first version of Signalgate, okay? Signalgate, which he said he actually set up. And then a little bit of trickle happened, and I think Alex Wong started being thrown around in the mix of, no, my deputy was kind of part of this sort of setting up of the Signal app exchange, when really none of them should be talking about any sort of war mission, attack plans on an insecure app. Whether or not they thought it was secure, they should know better. They should know better. That was the first version of Signalgate. The second version of Signalgate was when it was revealed that Pete Hegseth had his wife, his brother, and apparently his personal lawyer on the app exchange as well. And then the third version of Signalgate was when it was revealed that Pete Hegseth had supposedly brought in some sort of internet connection line into his office that they called a dirty signal or a dirty cord, I don't know, something weird like that, basically to access signal from his personal computer in his office, so they say. So we've got Signalgate 1, Signalgate 2, Signalgate 3, and now there's finally a shakeup. Now they're going to say something probably along the lines of like, oh, we just weren't seeing eye to eye, or the vision was not there, but really somebody has to take the fall. And these two people are going to be the people taking the fall. It should be everybody who was on that Signal app exchange, from Pete Hegseth to Marco Rubio to JD Vance to Tulsi Gabbard to Mike Waltz to Pete Hegseth, to all of them who definitely know better. And if they say they don't know better, we already knew when they got confirmed, they were unqualified for the job. PDJ says they used to be part of the USSR. Absolutely, a lot of them were part of the USSR when we were talking about all the different things. Now, I was actually talking to a student of mine who is from that part of the world. They are Ukrainian, and they actually said that one of the things that they were interested in is what's going to happen with Belarus. And I actually hadn't thought about this. So I would look to see what sort of shakeup is going to happen in that government as well, because there are some sort of Russian leaning, factions of this going on in Belarus, in addition to whether or not Crimea stays, as it is, or if they just give it up for as far as Ukraine, or if they actually end up getting to take over all of Ukraine and head straight into Poland. Kenzie says, I wouldn't want to limit women's vocabulary, Randy. You mean to Trump speak? Because, yeah, we all know. If you didn't see the Terry Moran interview, run, don't walk to go watch it, because it is something to be seen. Definitely take a moment, if you haven't already, like this live stream. I really appreciate you guys for being here and chatting it up with me this morning. And also, if you like it, that helps this spread it far and wide and get to a lot more people that can join the conversation as well. All right, so let's also get into some other topics here, because there are so many. There are absolutely so many, and I don't want to not talk about this one as well. The Columbia student who was detained by the Trump administration at his naturalization appointment has been freed on bond. And if you didn't see it yesterday, he gave a speech when he came out, and he said, I am not afraid of the Trump administration. He was very, very poignant in his words. He was like, we are not going to be fearful of what you think you can do to us. Now, I don't think he was ever charged with anything either. So it's very interesting how this whole saga has played out, because every single sort of legal decision that sort of catches Trump in his sort of like illegalness, right? His illegal ways. Um, it basically brings a roadblock into the sort of momentum that he thought he had. Let me get back to some of your comments. Let's see. Kenzie says college students have led the charge when it comes to change and progress in this country. Absolutely. And I think they're so scared of that. They're so scared of the people who are young in this country, who are, and not that all college students are young, because there plenty of people have gone back to college to, pursue their education and all those things. But the people who really feel like it is on the line and they don't have anything to lose, right? They are so convicted, right? Their conviction is so powerful that nothing is going to dissuade them. I mean, there are so many different instances of college campuses that really were in turmoil. And, whether it was like the Vietnam War protesting or whatever, there were so many different campuses. And to target those students who are standing up for what is right and making their voices known, it's the Trump administration being scared that it will continue, that someone else, maybe not from another country who has, made this his home, but someone who is a U.S. citizen, homegrown, born, person, is going to lead that charge, right? And that's what they're afraid of. They can silence people like this, who aren't necessarily, from the United States for their whole lives, right? But they cannot use the same against a US born citizen until now. Okay, so if you haven't heard, there was a sort of midnight meeting that Jasmine Crockett and Eric Swalwell literally got onto Instagram and their social media and said, did you know that we just had a vote in the Judiciary, I believe, committee, where Republicans voted to give Donald Trump the power to deport U.S. citizens? If you haven't heard this news, go to Eric Swalwell's Instagram, go to Jasmine Crockett's Instagram. This is where it's going. Do you remember when a lot of people were saying, he doesn't want to deport everybody. He wants to get rid of the bad apples. He wants to get rid of all those violent criminals. Those are the people that he's going to deport to other countries, to Guantanamo Bay, whatever. Then it was, oh, no, we're going to get all the people with the student visas. All those student visas people that had parking tickets or whatever, some sort of mild infraction that was not violent, oh, we need to get rid of all of those student visa holders, right? Which then they had to reverse that. Then now, oh, we have gang members that we know that they did something wrong because they have a tattoo, right? They have a tattoo, so they need to all go to El Salvador. No due process. Now, we're deporting U.S. citizens, which has happened with that 2-year-old child, I believe, who was a U.S. citizen, who was like getting cancer treatment or something. She was deported to Honduras. And they're trying to have an emergency hearing to say, why did you deport her? Because her father gave someone else the permission to keep her with them, a U.S. citizen, here in the United States. So because we have already even broached the subject of deporting U.S. citizens, and now they are voting for it in the judiciary, Republicans are saying, hey, go ahead, Donald Trump. You have our blessing to now deport U.S. citizens. I would run over to that statement by Jasmine Crockett and Eric Swalwell that says they literally voted for it. They literally voted to give him the power to do it. And if you don't think that that means that eventually those same Republicans are going to vote to end birthright citizenship, the game has changed, ladies and gentlemen. The game has changed. Sean says, "Comment ça va en Los Angeles? Ça va bien, merci. Et vous? How are you doing?" Let's go to something that I thought was very, very interesting. And we talked about the shortages with the last votes. The countdown to shortages and higher prices has begun. We talked about Amazon not too long ago, wanting to show their prices and then caving, right? And I saw a TikTok of this girl, and I'm so waiting with bated breath, because she said, I'm waiting for someone to create one of those little Google Chrome extensions where it actually shows the before price and then the tariffed price. I'm like, people are so quick these days. I can imagine how many people would be adding that little Chrome extension to see in real time how much their prices are changing on Amazon from what it was before the tariffs to what it is now. Because I would not put it past people to actually create one of those sort of extensions. All right. Let me go to another story that I think is very, very important, which is this one. Harris accuses Trump of abandoning American ideals in first major speech. I wanted to come back to this because she looks stunning. She had a great message. She was very poignant when she was talking about certain sharp little digs at Donald Trump. And then she also was very sort of giving this message that she's very consistent at, which is, we the people, it is our country. It is your country. It is my country. It is we, the people, who make change. I wanted to get into some of the different quotes because I don't remember them always. She lambasted Donald Trump's administration for attempting to divide and conquer. Another one, let me get out of the way here. She shouted out all of these people, which to me is very strategic. She shouted them out because she knows that these people have been doing the work, okay, during this sort of time of crisis. Cory Booker, Chris Van Hollen, Chris Murphy, Jasmine Crockett, Maxwell Frost, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and Senator Bernie Sanders. So she didn't just make it a speech about, Emerge America or about digs into Donald Trump. She was saying, hey, look at our roster. Hey, look what's going on here. Hey, I see you and I see what you're doing, and so should everybody else. And I thought that was brilliant for her to bring in a shout out to all these people who have been speaking up, okay? If you haven't had a chance to like this live stream, definitely take a moment to hit the little thumbs up button. That really helps. And in the comments, Vivian says, yes, she was amazing. Do you think she will come back? I think she's not done, but I don't really know what her next move is. She moved to New York. I believe her husband is part of a law firm in New York. We saw her most recently, like maybe a month ago, where she was kind of frequenting some Broadway plays. I think she will always be active. Now, whether or not she's going to run for president, I have no idea. Who would you vote for as far as like a Democratic nominee? Would it be AOC? Would it be Bernie Sanders? Would it be Cory Booker, Chris Murphy? Would it be, Kamala Harris? Would it be Gavin Newsom? Who do you think you would vote for if it was a Democratic nominee? I'm very curious. Put it in the comments because, like I said, a lot of names have been floated around, and it really does kind of come down to the energy at the time. A lot of people think it comes down to fundraising. How much money can you raise? And yes, AOC is building her war chest. Like she's got a lot of cash that she has raised recently, and she is doing it with this sort of pretext of, I'm not taking money from all these different people. And I don't have stock market, shares of all these different corporations. My pockets are not lined by the Apples and the Microsofts and the Teslas of the world. Who would you vote for as a Democratic nominee in the 2028 election? Now, in the comments, I think we should go for Pete. Oh, I forgot Pete. Pete Buttigieg is killing it. Not only is he articulate, but to me, he just says, I know what I'm talking about. like I could probably ask him a question about anything, and he probably is leaning toward being an expert on it. Like he has done his research, not like and every man knows everything, but like really he knows his shit, like really. Let's see, Vivian says Kamala or AOC. And then Dispassionate Observer says, are you artistic? Sing, write poems. I do. How did you know? How did you know? Yes, so I have a very artistic background. I was a professional dancer for a long time. I sang, appeared in some TV shows and some films, and on stage with some uh, artists. So yeah. So how did you know? Maybe it comes out. Richard, good morning. He says, may every step you make be filled with happiness, love, and peace. Thank you so much. It is May, and I am, you know what? I feel like there's an energy shift today where I feel like the courts are probably going to start making some moves. Yes, very, very soon, because they've had time. They have had time to stay certain orders. They've had time to say, come back to the courts. They've had time to say 9-0 for the Supreme Court, getting this guy back. Did you guys see the interview with Terry Moran and Donald Trump on his 100 days, and how he basically said, hey, you could pick up that phone on the Resolute desk and get him back, Kilmore Abrego Garcia. And he was like, yeah, I could. like literally he said he could bring him back if he wanted to. But the Supreme Court said you have to facilitate that. That interview is going to go into court documents. It is definitely going to be part of court records. Kenzie says they need to assert their role in our government, and that's to hold the administration accountable for breaking the law. You are correct. Let me just tell you that whatever they were trying to do last time with his sort of documents that he had in his golden bathroom in Mar-a-Lago, all the things that he took from the White House, they took too long. They took absolutely too long to actually, charge him with anything, because then they had to go back and forth with the courts and the delays and and that's what he's used to. He's used to being in court. He's used to delay until maybe the charges or sort of the situation has disappeared effectively. Jack Smith dropped the charges at the end because he didn't have enough time to prosecute someone who was running for office. Now, he doesn't have the option right now to run for a third term. So whatever charges that they wanted to bring at the end of this term, unless they change the rules, right? Unless they change the rules, he has this opportunity to face some sort of consequences. But right now, Pam Bondi is not going to be charging the president unless she feels like she's going under the bus. And then what's he going to do? He's going to fire her like he did James Comey? I mean, like literally, it's the same storyline. We're just in like season 15 of it. Kenzie says they need to revoke his immunity from prosecution. Absolutely. And I think the fact that, was it Caroline Leavitt the other day? She was like, yeah, if a Supreme Court justice or if a judge is, intervening or whatever she said, she was like, yeah, of course we would go after them. They are telling them, they are telling SCOTUS, we will come after you if you don't fall in line. It's pretty astounding how blatant they are and how just like bold the statements are, that especially Caroline Leavitt, who's just like talking out of both sides of her mouth every single day when she gets up there at the podium. I don't know if you've been watching the sort of new media that they've been allowing to ask questions at the press briefings, but they are very leading. They are very slanted, and they're very sort of, I don't know, Caroline Leavitt says things like, wow, that's a refreshing question. That's refreshing. And you're just like, you gave them that question. You know that at some point they talked about that. They talked about it because they wanted her to be prepared with an answer for whatever the sort of softball questions they were being given. Now, maybe they don't collaborate, but sure as hell looks like it. Richard says, I concur, they did take too long. They absolutely took too long. But I do think just like giving them something like immunity or giving him immunity, I believe they can take that back. I believe that the abuse of power, there have already been articles of impeachment actually submitted already. And that abuse of power, defying the courts, is part of it. He has admitted in that interview with Terry Moran that he intentionally is defying the court. If he wanted to, he could facilitate that, but he's not, okay? Thank you so much for the hearts. If you have a moment, take a moment to like this live stream. I appreciate it. And subscribe if you haven't already. I'd love to have you as a subscriber so that as I put out different sorts of videos, you actually see them because it pushes it out to all of you guys. Kenzie says, it was crazy when Trump said Putin was, quote, tapping him along. And it made me think that's exactly what he's doing with his MAGA base. You know what? I think that he used them for what he needed. They got him elected. And now he doesn't need them anymore. And I think they're in the find out phase of all the things that are happening, which basically are him cutting everything and him giving a lot of things to the top, 1%, 2%. Let's see, Richard says, Republicans better hope they win the midterms in both houses. I mean, I have to believe that this sort of, dismal, like state that we're in, no ships coming, the price is soaring, benefits being cut, support being cut, like all the things. I have to believe that they would want something better for themselves. Not that they would say, this is the pain and suffering that we asked for. I just can't. I just can't. Now, I hope they don't win because I feel like a lot of people will start to move to other countries if they haven't already. I wanted to show you this picture because this is from, and maybe I can get out of the way here. It says Kelly Clarkson right around here. I think she has new music, you guys. I just wanted to show you this because it's like on a loop on her TikTok. It just says like, it's like a part of her new song. Something about, I would give up freedom just to have a kiss or something like this. Like she's talking about that. I don't know. It's an interesting sort of phrase. So if you have a chance, go over to Kelly Clarkson's TikTok page because this is what is showing. And I love Kelly Clarkson. Do you guys love Kelly Clarkson? Put it in the comments if you like her music because she always seems like she's got really positive things going on. I wanted to talk about this as well, which is on the tech side of things because a lot of my channel, I talk about technology. I also talk about policy, but we also talk about lifestyle. So Kelly Clarkson was talking about entertainment, lifestyle. This is talking about tech. U.S. judge rules Apple violated order to reform App Store. I don't know if you remember this story a long time ago. I say that because I feel like it's been 40 years since Donald Trump showed up. Okay, so this was maybe last July when I think they were sued by the Justice Department because Apple obviously has this sort of corner market on the iPhone, but they really have the corner market on the App Store and where they prioritize their apps versus other apps. So maybe like your health app or, whatever the organization apps are. This is something that I thought was very interesting because they're trying to break up parts of these companies. If you haven't noticed, they're trying to break up Google, they're trying to break up Apple, they're trying to separate these sort of, monopolies on the market. And it's very interesting that they want to separate certain companies and break up certain companies while they're allowing other companies to merge. I think the next merger that was in the news was about Paramount. Which is why CBS's 60 Minutes was being targeted. And they basically were overseeing a lot of their sort of editorial content. And Paramount is their parent company, and they're trying to merge as well. So very interesting. Let's see. Kenzie says, I don't know, though. I thought the majority of America was smarter than when they displayed voting for this guy. I don't. I really don't. And not to say that Americans are dumb, but a lot of people, they don't vote in their best interest. I mean, when you think about different people who have become, politicians, George Santos just came into my mind. Like, George Santos was he actually got elected and now he's going to jail. So there are so many people who vote for people not because of what they're going to do for them, but because they just like the way they look or like the way they act or like whatever. And it's not necessarily based on whether they are going to be good for the country. It just, It's very sad. And a lot of people don't vote in their best interest. That's why they do things in their personal lives too, or even in their career that don't bode well for them. It just is. It's just how it is. It's sad, but that's the way it is. But I wanted to point out one thing. Two things, I should say. Okay, in this picture, the back of the head that you see, and you can see her name here, Pam Bondi. Okay, I posted a video about this. She's saying in this cabinet meeting yesterday that your DOJ and your DOJ agencies, she's talking directly to Trump, got all this fentanyl off the streets. Now, yay for her for getting fentanyl off the streets. But then she says this, we saved 258 million lives. Okay, now I want to show you. There are only 340 million people in the United States. Okay, so if they saved 258 million of 340 million, they saved 2/3 of American lives. Okay, now when you use verbiage like this, we saved 258 million lives. It's almost like they're saying everybody is a drug user. Everybody wanted to take fentanyl. Everybody had access to this drug. Okay, that's not the case. Now, good for her and her agencies for doing their job. Like, do you want a pat on the back for doing your job? Okay, well, there you go, hand clap. But when it comes to saving lives, you can't just say you have saved 258 million lives. 2/3 of the US population is not on fentanyl. It's just not. And I was looking up some of the stats because I just thought this is a preposterous thing to say. Okay, so this is from 2023. And not to say that this is a good number, because it is bad to see that these are the number of deaths from fentanyl, 74,702. This is not a good number, but it does not reach 100,000. It doesn't even reach 80,000 for 2023. Let's say it went up in 2024. Let's say it reached 100,000 in 2024. For her to say that of the 340 million people, they saved 258 million lives, when the average, okay, or at least for 1 year, was less than 100,000 people dying, I'm just going to say this. You're reaching very, very far on this one. And not to say that the work isn't good. It's not to say the work isn't good, but to be disingenuous about what the typical number of people who are actually consuming the drug and actually overdosing on the drug is misinformation at best. I think she's just spewing something. The math isn't mathing to me. All right, let's see. Paul Moreno says the Democrat Party is the party of the Trail of Tears. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, Paul. I personally believe that if you're voting in not in your best interest, then what the MAGA portion of the party, or the Republicans in name only portion of the party, or even the Freedom Caucus, like there are so many elements of this sort of right-leaning party that vote against their best interest, that it is hard to listen to people who say, you know, Democrats don't know what they're doing, they're in disarray, they're in a shambles, blah, 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 when even though people are voting with each other, they're still voting not in their best interest. And when I say that, I'm talking about all the cuts that are going to come to Medicare and Medicaid, all the cuts that came across with all of those sort of just dashed and slashing of jobs with no rhyme or reason. All of the things that they did last night with that voting for wanting to give Donald Trump the power to deport US citizens. It's not in our best interest. It's not in Republicans' best interest. Saying that we should deport people to El Salvador because they have tattoos, it doesn't ring an alarm for anybody that maybe the next people they'll go after with tattoos might be people who ride motorcycles and are in biker clubs. And maybe those biker club members are your family members, and they're not black and brown anymore. And oh my God, why are they taking all of our Hell's Angels away from us? Why are they taking all these people? They're good people. They never did anything bad, but they're voting, and they're not so secret about it, to deport US citizens. It's just ridiculous. So I understand that everybody has their own opinion, but when you do that and you say, do that for them, but don't do that to me, eventually it comes back around to you. It will. It just always does. I'm going to end there because I have run out of time and I have to do some more things this morning. But thank you so much for joining me this morning. Take a moment to like this live stream. Join me tomorrow and Friday morning. Oh God, it's Friday morning already. Woo-hoo. We are heading toward a good weekend. I think the sun is going to come back out in Los Angeles. Tell me where you are in the comments, where you're logged in from. Join me tomorrow morning live streaming here on YouTube and also in the evening on Substack. Paul, I am so glad that you're here because you are definitely dedicated to the chat, and I appreciate all of your texting because people who are reading the chat understand your viewpoint. I don't agree with it, but that doesn't mean anything to you, and that's okay. Just like you telling me that maybe I don't know my facts, that doesn't mean anything to me either. So, Vivian, I will see you later, and I hope that you guys all have a great, great weekend. If you don't join me tomorrow, join me tonight on Substack Live. Bye.